So if you could just please refrain from beating my base. Where's Angeline when you need it? Where's my wife? Get out of my house. Hello everybody, it's Vedder here, and today we're going to be benchmarking the RTX 3060 Ti inside of Sons of the Forest. I'm pairing it up with the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D with 32GB of DDR5 RAM. I have the game installed on SSD and I've got the latest Nvidia drivers, so let's jump on in and start benchmarking. So to begin with, we're going to be playing at 1080p. I've set the graphics to the Ultra preset, which is the highest preset in the game, though important to note, it doesn't actually set everything to maximum in the game. As you can see here, it's left the texture resolution at medium, but we're just going to leave it like that for now. Also, something really annoying about this, which really bugs me when games do this, is a bunch of these settings here do not get adjusted with the presets. You know, all of these settings here in the features do not get turned off. So we'll jump in first with them all off and let's see how this runs here in the game. All right, so here we are inside of my base, and as you can see, it's not exactly the biggest base here. It's actually my old base from when I used to play with a friend. Yes, I used to play with a friend on this world, but we are here. This is ultra settings, believe it or not, and we are actually playing at around 80 FPS at 1080p ultra settings. Now the game looks okay. It doesn't look as good as 1440p for me. I played this game throughout with this GPU at 1440p. At our base location, we're even getting up to 100 FPS at ultra settings, which is kind of insane. I will go ahead and test out absolute maximum as well, since ultra doesn't actually apply maximum settings for whatever reason. But either way, we're playing at like 80 to 100 FPS here, and this is a demanding area, by the way. We'll go over to these trees because I remember that these trees were really demanding over in this area. Typically, your base location is going to be very demanding in this game, so the more you build, the more demanding it seems to get. But even in the forest here, you can see we're getting like 90 FPS, and this is native resolution, by the way. And I can tell you without a doubt in my mind that this game has some optimization. Like, from when I last played, I was not getting this FPS, but I might just remembering the FPS that I was getting when I played at 1440p, which we'll check out soon. But I don't remember getting anywhere near this much FPS when I played with my friend. As for VRAM usage, we're only actually utilizing 2 gigs of VRAM to play Ultra. That seems really low. We are allocating 5.4 gigs, but we're only using 2 gigs of VRAM right now. Obviously, 2 gig VRAM cards are not going to be able to play the game at these settings because they're just simply not powerful enough, of course. They're too old to be able to play the game at Ultra, even if they have the VRAM capability, right? Even like the 1060s and stuff are not going to be able to really play Ultra that well, even though technically it seems like they have enough VRAM. 2 gigs of VRAM for Ultra settings is really, really low. Like, you don't really see this anymore. But yeah, it runs totally fine here, guys. In terms of actual how much RAM we're actually using, it's under 16 gigs, so you can probably get away with playing at 16 gigs here, though. Do remember, if you've got other programs running in the background, you know, Discord and maybe some browser tabs open, probably not going to be able to play too smoothly. You probably have to turn those off with 16 gigs. Obviously, when I benchmark here, I don't have any of that turned on. So just do bear that in mind. You know, having browser tabs open and stuff will eat up your RAM, basically. So even though theoretically we can play with under 16 gigs, it might not be the smoothest for you if you're actually doing normal PC things, right? Like got normal programs running. But yeah, 90 to 100 FPS, 90 FPS on average, in a demanding area too, is more than fine. Let's switch it over to 1440p. All right, so here we are. We're at 1440p using the Ultra preset still. And of course, I don't have these settings turned on because it's not adjusting them. So I'm just going to leave them as is, because I could go through and be like, oh, I think for medium, we could use these settings. Or I think for Ultra, oh, I could use these settings. It's completely subjective, so I'm just going to leave them turned off, and then we'll test them out later. So let's jump back in anyways. All right, and it looks like it's going to be night soon, so I'm going to want to sleep, though I don't know where my bed is. Oh, we've got a bed right here. I don't need to do that. Sleep the night. What just happened? Oh, we're getting attacked. I see. Probably should shut this door. I don't remember anything of this game. Get out of my house. Ah! I don't remember anything. Let me... give me an axe. Whoa! Pack it in. Hold up, son. Get out of my house. So if you could just please refrain from beating my base. Look. Where's Angeline when you need it? Where's my wife? Get out of my house. Man, I just lost so much armor because I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. I'm trying to sleep. Jesus Christ, let me sleep. Oh, there we go. I saw 90 FPS there just before I went to bed. I'll take the loot, thank you. Is there any more loot? Man, I did not have a clue how to fight there at all. It has been a hot minute since I played this game. As you can see, even at 1440p, we're getting like 70 to 80 FPS in this area. The performance of this game has definitely increased. So maybe you wanted to play this game before and you couldn't, or you were thinking about getting this game before, but you saw the performance that it required to play it. They have clearly optimized this game a little bit. This game has had some optimizations, no doubt about it. It's had updates as well, so there's new content in the game, which I'm not aware of, to be completely honest with you guys, because like I said, I've not been playing, so I've not been keeping up with it in terms of like what's been happening with the game. But I can tell you without a doubt that the performance has absolutely increased here from last I played, and it's actually very pleasant. 70 FPS at ultra settings, 1440p, is completely fine. And for VRAM usage, it's still barely anything. It's literally only using 2.4 gigs. So I think the devs have like tried to make this game run on 3 and 4 gig cards, like specifically like 4 gig cards. What I'm thinking of is like the 1650. I'm not sure how much performance the 1650 has for a game like this. I don't think it's much, but it has enough VRAM to play the game at least. So that is quite interesting that it actually has enough VRAM here to play the game. And remember, if you've got other things open, let's say you've got a Netflix open on another monitor, or you've got YouTube playing on another monitor or something, that does take VRAM. It takes a little bit of VRAM to do that. So do bear that in mind. So even if you've got like an 8 gig card, depending on what you're doing with your other monitors, you do want some spare VRAM as well left over for that, right? To do those other things, to have all those programs open. So just do keep that in mind. But yeah, 1440p, it's completely fine again, guys. So there's not much else to be said about it. 75 FPS on average. And by the way, if you are somebody who plays at higher refresh rates usually, so do I, but I think we can all agree, like games like The Forest and stuff like this, like the Ark Survival Evolved, you really don't need that much FPS, at least if you're not playing PvP in Ark, right? So you don't really need that much FPS. So 75 to 80 FPS feels completely fine here. So we'll try absolute maximum. I'm going to go back to the main menu to apply it, to make sure it does actually apply the settings, and we'll jump back in at maximum. I don't think we're actually going to test medium or lower, because there's really no point. This is actually fine FPS. We'll just try out absolute maximum though, and we'll see how it runs. Alright, so we're back in the main menu, and I've just applied some more settings. We're playing at 1080p to start with. We are now playing at absolute maximum settings. It doesn't say custom here for some reason, even though I have adjusted the texture resolution here, because it leaves it at medium, of course, on ultra. So I've set this to ultra now, and I've come down here and I've actually applied bloom. I've enabled screen space reflection, and I've also enabled micro shadowing, contact shadows. I'm leaving chromatic aberration turned off, because if I remember correctly in this game, it just made the game look a lot worse. I'm leaving it off. This is a setting that's kind of like hit or miss in most games, and in most games for me it looks disgusting, so I leave it turned off. I can't exactly tell you what it does, because it varies game by game, in all honesty. Like, it shouldn't vary game by game, but it does. In some games it looks good, some games it looks awful, and this is one of the games that, if I remember correct, looks awful. So we're leaving it off. Of course, we're not turning on dynamic resolutions yet. Maybe we'll try some DLSS later on if we need it. And I'm not turning motion blur off, turning motion blur on for obvious reasons. So let's jump back in the game and see how it runs. Obviously, film grain left off, and style just leaving that default. So let's jump back in. Alright, and here we are in the game at absolute maximum settings, 1080p native resolution as well. No DLSS or anything being utilized here, and I'm actually fairly surprised. We turned a lot of settings on and we're still playing at very high FPS. I have no idea how they've managed this, but we're still playing at around 80 FPS. Oh look, there's that is a lot of deers. What is happening? There's like a, oh no. The deers are rising. They're forming an army. My wife. We have to do something about this. I no longer have to share my wife with my friend, which sounds very weird. Let your own imagination go wild with that one. But we're playing at around 70, 80 FPS here. We're going to go back over to this forest area. Typically the base is the most intensive area for myself and my friend when we played, but they may have optimized like the base buildings. It might have been the buildings in the base that caused a lot of problems, like in terms of low FPS, right? Like the custom schematics and stuff. But it seems like they fixed it. I did just load my world back up, so everything is back here. But yeah, like even getting like 90 FPS at times here, 80 FPS, maximum settings, 1080p. If you want to play this game at absolute ultra settings, the 3060 Ti can do it. You know what I mean? Like, it can do it. And this is what I mean by the 3060 Ti, by the way. In some of my benchmarks, I mentioned, like, this GPU is still very good for a lot of games, and it's still very capable of playing 1440p, like, ultra in a lot of games. It really just depends on the games that you play, because I see a lot of comments in some of my videos, you know, saying, like, oh, the 3060 Ti is just a 1080p card, or oh, the 3060 Ti is trash and stuff like that. I'm like, what world are you living on? Like, are you delusional? Are you serious? It's still a very capable card. Now, true, it's got competing cards these days, but if you can find one at a very good price, it's worth picking it up. And I can't say what price because it varies from country to country, and possibly even state to state if you're, you know, for America and stuff. So, like, you'll know when you find a good price by doing your own research on it, right? But it's still a very capable card. Like, this game came out, it's not the newest game. I think it came out last year, I can't remember. But it's still playing at ultra settings completely fine, right? It's still totally fine here. For VRAM usage, we're at 3 gigs. When I started the game up initially, it was actually at 4 gigs VRAM usage, so the VRAM has actually gone down. Let me go back to the base. So the VRAM did actually start at about 4 gigs, then it went down to 3 gigs, interestingly enough. So I'm not 100% sure about what that's about there. And you can see this game is one of those games that's it's very good to see the actual VRAM utilization, because the game is actually allocating we're allocating 6.6 gigs, but we're only using just over 3 gigs, or around 3 gigs. Sorry there, Derek, you can stay outside. I forgot your name. Calvin or Kevin, I can't remember his name. One of those two. But yeah, it's still totally fine here, guys, at 1080p ultra settings. Let's switch it up to 1440p and make it day, because it's going to be night. Come on, Cassandra. Come on, Cassandra. That's how you get it back in. Alrighty, 1440p time at maximum settings in the game. It says ultra, of course, but we are at maximum. Let's take a quick peek. We're at native resolution as well, so see how this runs here. Alright, I just slept the night so we can get some sunshine, some nice beautiful rays from the sun, and I can already see from the axe itself that 1440p is much crisper here. Oh yes, this is the kind of FPS that I remember playing at. So clearly when I played at like ultra settings, but I don't remember playing at like maximum, rather. I've got to be careful with my wording saying ultra and maximum, because we are playing at maximum, right? We're not playing at ultra, even though ultra technically should be maximum. Anyways, what the hell? I forgot there were sound effects of lightning, but what happened here? I guess we parked our car here, but you can see, oh god, even when it's raining, god damn it, it's raining. Get out of here. It looks like the rain's actually quite intensive. Maybe not. When I was looking at this rock, my FPS really dropped. I think it's because of all the reflections on the rock, look. Yeah, my FPS drops. Oh, thank you, dear. I appreciate that. Oh, you didn't actually give me anything. Okay. But yeah, here at 1440p, we're still only using around 3 to 3.5 gigs of VRAM. Our FPS is hovering around that 60 FPS range. And trust me, even if it goes a little bit below 60 FPS, it still feels totally fine. And I think it might honestly have to do with the fact that it's raining. I think the rain is actually a little bit more intensive because it adds the rain effects, like the particle effects to the weapons and stuff, which is a nice touch. You know, you don't see many games doing that, so that's nice to see. But it still feels totally fine here, guys. I will say the most intensive area for, now that I'm remembering, the most intensive biome in this game is absolutely the snow, the mountains. Anywhere where there's snow and you're running through it. And I think it's because the snow, it interacts with you to, you know, for lack of words, basically. Like, if you walk through the snow, you leave footprints and the snow moves. So I think that's why the snow is so intensive, is because it's constantly updating, if that makes sense. Like, the snow is constantly shifting when you're running through it. So it's very intensive in that biome. or anywhere where there's snow, essentially. But we're quite far away from snow, believe it or not, so can't really get there. Do keep that in mind that the snow is incredibly intensive. They still haven't fixed that, where you literally phase through the water when you drink Cook. But either way, 1440p, guys, I'm gonna say it's completely fine. Yes, it's dipping down into like the 50s range, but I'm telling you right now, hand on heart, I can't feel it. I don't. It's not stuttering or anything. It feels completely fine. It feels good, is all I'm trying to say. It feels fine. It's interesting to see that VRAM is not even hitting 4 gigs right now at ultra settings 1440p or maximum settings 1440p, and we don't need DLSS, and we don't need any FSR or anything like that. This feels totally fine. And that's going to do it for today. We're not going to be trying out DLSS or FSR or anything like that, or medium settings, because I really don't feel like we need it. We saw ultra settings getting at 1080p like 80 to 100 FPS. 1440p got between 70 and 85 FPS roughly at ultra, and then maximum settings 1080p we were still getting like 70, 80 FPS. And maximum settings at 1440p we're getting like 50 to 65 FPS roughly, which by the way feels totally fine. I play games usually at 144 Hz, but these survival type games, you know, 7 Days to Die, The Forest, Sons of the Forest, Ark Survival Evolved, Ark Survival Ascended, and, you know, Conan Exile, stuff like that, as long as you're not doing PvP, 60 FPS feels fine, because these games simply don't require really high refresh rates. You can't feel it, at least I can't feel it. It is subjective, I can't feel it, and I usually can feel it in FPS games, basically. And yeah, when I play survival games, I'm fine with 60 FPS, 75 FPS range. Totally fine. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. I've been Verda. Thanks for checking out the video. Leave a like if you found any use out of this. Subscribe if you want future benchmarks. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, and goodbye for now. Getting a thumbnail.